US and Saudi Arabia are urging Sudan's warring sides to extend a week-old ceasefire. The agreement expires on Monday. Despite the deal, violence has persisted in Khartoum. Meanwhile, the humanitarian situation continues to worsen. We're joined now by Laetitia Courtois. She's the permanent observer to the UN and head of the Delegation of International Committee of the Red Cross in New York. Thanks so much for joining us on the program today. Now, Sudan was already experiencing a humanitarian crisis before the conflict broke out. How bad have things become now?
Well, definitely. The situation in Sudan has been very complex over the past years, past conflict, economic hardship. The consequences of COVID, amongst others, have left the population really in a fragile situation. And if you add to that as well, 1 million of people seeking refuge in Sudan from neighboring countries have also added to the layer of complexities. And now the situation since 15th of April has been very, very critical, in particular in Khartoum, where combats have been taking place quite righteously over the first weeks of the conflict, and put 6 million people in very desperate situation with very limited to no access to basic services such as electricity, water, or medical support.
Yeah, airstrikes and shelling have hit hospitals and prisons and other facilities in dense residential areas. If Sudan's infrastructure is being destroyed like this, especially around Khartoum, how does that impact the humanitarian efforts?
It's been very difficult for humanitarians to launch a response that is adequate and in line with the growing needs. The first element was obviously the issue of access due to the complexity of the combats taking place in almost street fighting on a daily basis for weeks. Now the situation has calmed, the ceasefire seems to be holding, but nonetheless, the access is not to the level of what we require. So we've been calling on parties to uphold their commitment in the Jeddah Declaration to facilitate the humanitarian access, allow us to bring not only personnel but also medical supplies. We have managed to do so over the last few days, but it's still very limited and very, it's the first step that needs to be consolidated and increased in scale and scope.
You mentioned the mass exodus of people. Where are refugees going and what countries are hosting them? What are the issues they're encountering along the way?
Well, the movements of population have been going on different directions outside of Khartoum, first and foremost, for people really trying to exit and flee the combats taking place in the capital city, but also in the neighboring countries, Egypt, Chad, South Sudan, and Ethiopia have been receiving a lot of people on their end, often as well coping with the very basic and very difficult capacity to host additional people on their borders. So it's been very, very challenging for those people, but the access to those people is building up as well to understand their needs and to support them immediately, be them on essential services such as food or water, or also to allow them to reconnect with their family members.
If fighting continues, as it's likely to do so at least in the short term, what does that mean for Sudan if this fighting does go on longer term, and what does it mean for the people of Sudan, more importantly?
Well, it will mean definitely a deteriorating situation that will be more difficult to harness and stabilize. The situation, as I was mentioning, is very dire from past years of hardship, and adding to that damages over basic infrastructure that were able to provide the minimum for a population. If those are not being upheld, or systems repaired, or electricity fixed, it will definitely mean more people on the move, more humanitarian needs that will require urgently to be met. And if not, then that will mean probably a situation out of control.
All right, Laetitia Courtois, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.